707 Andrews Tower.
Are you ready? Oh, listen. BucklesBerry Lemonade, where we stir up a downright chilling. I'm Lisa, and with me is my co-host and super handsome husband, Timmy. And guess what, everybody? We're on camera.
We are on camera.
Yay! Hey, baby, I can see you.
I can see you.
Haha.
Yep. It took us a while, but we finally got everything like we would like it somewhat.
Somewhat.
So, hello, everybody. It looks like we have a very gripping topic for you today. And we're going to take a deep dive into the eerie and unsolved case of the Redhead Murders, also known as the Bible Belt Strangler Murders.
This is very interesting.
This should be a good one.
Very good. And the Redheaded Murders are a series of unsolved homicides of red-headed females in the United States, somewhere between October of 78 and they believe 1992.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Well, makes, that's being you can't tell it now, but being a former redhead, things like this.
He was, I can vouch.
You can vouch.
He was a redhead.
It's a cause for concern. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. So you said they started sometime between October 78 and 1992, ended around that time.
Yeah, and they were believed to have been committed. Of course, they were committed by an unidentified male, because if they had male was identified, he'd be in prison.
Yeah.
He was
not
only
that, but we know from past episodes that most female serial killers do not operate in this manner.
No. And the murders are believed to be related or have occurred in states including Tennessee, Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia.
And possibly North Carolina.
Yes, some were found in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And the victims, while many have remained unidentified for years, were usually women with reddish hair whose bodies were abandoned along major highways in the United States. Officials believe that the women were likely hitchhiking or may have engaged in prostitution.
Yeah. And, authorities are unsure how many people may actually be responsible for these murders. There's a good indication that we know, and we'll get to that later in the podcast, that at least one person may be responsible for 6, if not more. But there are some theories and conspiracies, I guess, that there's a possibility maybe this was 2 to 3 working together.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no telling how many victims there could have been if that's the case.
Yep.
And it, as of now, it's believed to be between 5 and 14, but they're not.
There's speculating. There's more.
Yeah. The presumed victims were some of the victims were identified in 2018. And we'll get to that too. That was quite a year for these cases, as some of them were profiled and put together by some high schoolers.
That is amazing. I'm glad they did that. I mean, really, that shows you we do have some schools doing it right.
Absolutely. What a great teacher. And it
Great
was
teacher.
from that the serial killer was informally called the Bible Belt Strangler because the territories were part of the Bible Belt. And, they also did a profile for him. And you want to go over that profile, or you want me to go over that profile?
You can go ahead and go over that. You do that so much better than I do.
Well, aren't you just so sweet?
I know. I'm full of it tonight, aren't I?
Oh, well, I didn't say that. You wanting something, girl. So
okay, I've told you a couple of things, so I'm trying
yes,
to be nice.
Well, it's possible that he was military trained. It's also believed he was above average intelligence, above what would be considered normal height and weight, a white male who was a truck driver, who more than likely lived alone. And that's the profile that was actually built by the high schoolers. And according to what the FBI had to say, it's pretty damn spot on.
Yep.
So that's the profile for him. But it's interesting in things like that when over the years, the number of serial killers that have come out who were long haul truck drivers. I think that's a podcast in itself.
That is, and we might need to try to do one.
We might need to do that.
So I would like to.
Stay tuned.
You never know.
You never know. But I just find that fascinating. You and I were talking about that a little earlier today. It makes you wonder, when I say you, meaning these serial killers, did they choose their occupation based on their need to kill?
That is really a really good thought.
I mean, if you really stop and think about it,
perfect opportunity.
Perfect opportunity. You're at truck stops. There's a lot of activity at truck stops. There's obviously some exchanges going on in the lot, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with people who are pretty much could be off the radar. I mean, I doubt
a lot of these people. Well, some of them, there one in this episode that we're going to talk about that nobody knew she was missing.
There's a few like that. I mean, they just lose touch with their family for whatever reason. Maybe they just want to be away from their family, whatever the case could be. And life finds them in a parking lot at a truck stop for money, just trying to survive, for drugs, for whatever their reasoning, offering themselves for money.
And sometimes it's because they have to feed
children.
Mm-hmm.
But that puts someone who took a long and listen, guys, I'm not saying all long haul truck drivers are serial killers. There's
a majority of them are not.
Yeah,
90% are not.
Yeah, good people, just absolute good people, men and women, just good people.
Because my son has been. I've had two of my sons drive trucks.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I know there's good.
They just love the solidarity of the road and the quiet and peacefulness of it. But I'm talking about the people that have taken an occupation because they have this need to kill. So they're on these parking lots soliciting women, not for what the intent originally was for, but with the sole intent to kill them. Yep. And my whole point bringing this up in the background that I'm trying to create here is that's what happened with some of these victims. And this fellow, being above average intelligence, saw his opportunity, took his shots, and started a murder spree
Yep.
that could involve up to 14 women. That was my whole point, bringing that up in the background. You just in different things that we've read, some of these serial killers do seek out occupations.
Mm-hmm. That's the best way.
And I think that's what happened here.
I mean, you're alone. You go where either you're a company man or you own your own truck and you go wherever, and you're out there miles and miles and all this time.
Yeah, and depending on where you are, within a matter of hours, you're across state lines.
Mm-hmm.
So a crime that could have started in North Carolina could very well end in South Carolina, Georgia, Florida.
Yep.
And then a victim is dumped off and nobody can put the pieces together. And then when you slide back in time to 1978 in the 80s,
mm-hmm.
you didn't have the internet. You couldn't go on your Facebook page and say, hey, I can't find such and such. So what happened in this case is it made it hard to connect all these dots, because you literally could have a crime that would start in Tennessee and it could have culminated in Arkansas or somewhere else, and then the body could have been dumped in a whole nother state.
Yeah, it makes you wonder too if they don't. I've wondered, do they kidnap them, keep them in the truck with them? Because it is possible.
Well, we do know some serial killers would take a portion of the back in the sleeper and convert that to torture chambers. Gosh, I can't think of his name right now. The serial killer that would take pictures, he did that. I can't think of his name.
Oh, did he?
It'll drive me crazy.
You know how to find it, I know.
So, but that leads us to going around my ass to get to my thumb. But that leads us to our first victim, Lisa Nichols. So
and
tell us a
she
little
was
bit about
on September 16th of 84. Her body was excuse me. I'm trying to go around my butt to get my hole in my head. Whatever.
I'm sorry.
On September,
honey, I couldn't get the notes like we wanted them, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, on September 16th, 1984, a body of a woman was found and later identified as 28-year-old Lisa Nichols. She also used the last name of Jarvis. She was found along Interstate 40 near West Memphis, Arkansas. She was wearing only a sweater. It's weird. And she was found to have been a resident of West Virginia. Authorities, they were not able to identify and contact her family members sometime, indicating that Nichols was estranged from them. So nobody reported. So she was not identified until June of 85.
Well, again,
9 months after she was murdered. Now, I see I hope nothing like that ever happens. I want to be identified right then. I don't want to be laying for some time. So
absolutely. But I think in her case, from doing the research, she's just estranged for her family. Not a perfect home life. They don't know where she's at. They just know she's run off. And it's one of those things is that no news might be good news. And so they don't report her missing.
But no, this is she was identified through fingerprints. And a couple that had allowed her to stay with them for a period of time went and identified her body in Florida. Now you tell me that not her family. Somebody, that's sad.
Yeah. Well, they were probably more like family to her.
Yeah, but her family should have been family to her.
Yeah, sad. Sad.
That is very sad.
Well, guys, we're coming up on our very first commercial break. And thank you so much.
2 minutes and 2 seconds.
And we'll be right
I'm
back.
saying that because of you.
Be right back, guys.
And welcome back to BucklesBerry Lemonade. I'm your host, Lisa, and handsome host and handsome husband, Timmy, is here. Doesn't it seem strange to be able to see you? Yes, it does.
Caught you off guard a little bit.
Yeah.
And just maybe, some other things have taken effect.
Maybe.
So, guys, we're not used to being on camera. It's our first podcast.
So I'm very shy.
And both of us were nervous about it. Hence, why you were seeing some mistakes, some alcoholic beverages. I cannot confirm nor deny there may be a gummy of some sort at play.
Oh, would you do that?
Me? Well.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to get started back. Thank you so much for staying with us. The music is coming to an end in 3, 2, 1. Hey. So getting back to the Redhead Murders. On January 1st, around 1985, a body of a woman was found near Jellicoe, Tennessee. She was bound, and Jellicoe is in Campbell County. She was found down an embankment off the south side of Interstate 75. The remains were in an advanced state of decomposition, and it looked like she probably most likely had been killed somewhere around 72 hours earlier.
Wow.
She was killed by strangulation.
I think all of them were killed like that, weren't they?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
White, had shoulder length, and you guessed it, curly.
Red hair.
That's right. Her age was estimated to be between 17 and 25, but possibly, maybe, they don't know, honey. She could have been as old as 30. She was found clothed, had a tan pullover, a shirt, jeans. It looked like she had been wrapped in a blanket, but later it was found to have had a certain fluid on it. Her eyes were green. The young woman had freckles over her body and various scars, including a burn mark on one of her arms.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Really?
But it was a scar, so that must have come earlier in life. She was between 10 and 12 weeks pregnant. Yeah, when she died. She had a partial upper denture, including 2 false teeth. It's believed that she was between 5'1" and 5'4" tall, and probably was around 110 to 115 pounds.
What? And on September the 6th, 2018, Shelby County Sheriff's Office, they announced that the victim had been identified by fingerprints as Tina Marie McKinney Farmer of Indiana. She was 21 at the time of her death, and she was last seen in Indianapolis, Indiana, accompanied by a trucker, and said to be headed to Kentucky. Bless her heart.
It looks like Tina had one daughter prior to disappearing in 1984, so she already had one child and was pregnant with another.
So she probably was, I don't know, what did it say? She was estranged from her family?
Well, excuse me. Her family reported her missing.
Okay, so she was not estranged. So she was probably a good girl. I mean, all of them were good girls, and that's not what I mean, but she weren't doing that.
No, it's possible she might have been, but
Uh,
it doesn't give credence. I mean, one of the issues here is that in Indiana, after they had this information, they didn't enter into their national database.
why
So,
not?
not sure. The state did not have a law common to many other states requiring law enforcement to enter unidentified victims into their database. So, because it wasn't a law,
They didn't have to.
So they chose not to do it. I mean, imagine that, going a little extra step and maybe giving some families somewhere in the United States closure.
But you know what? They got closure in 2019.
Yeah, they did. DNA evidence identified
Convicted kidnapper.
Yeah, kidnapped.
Yep.
Well,
how dare you?
I'm serious. It identified convicted kidnapper Jerry Leon Johns, a son of a bitch in his own right.
Yes, he was.
As the man who killed Tina Farmer in December of 1984.
Oh, but they didn't get the closure. And they didn't get to fuss at him because he died in 2015 in prison.
Yeah. He'd been previously convicted in 1987 of aggravated kidnapping, assault, and other crimes in an attack on a woman, Linda Shackey, who he had picked up in Knox County, Tennessee.
2 months after her disappearance, Farmer's disappearance and death.
Yeah. It was her testimony that assisted in putting Johns behind bars. Like Tina Farmer, Shackey had been choked with a piece of cloth ripped from her t-shirt, which seemed to be a very common theme among some of these murders.
Yeah.
But, interestingly, in this case, Miss Shackey, what saved her was when he ripped a piece of t-shirt from her, or t-shirt, piece of her t-shirt from her t-shirt.
Yeah.
And strangling her, somehow the corner of her jacket had got placed in between him being able to really, make it knot up. And by her pulling in the manner she was pulling, struggling, she was able to keep enough airflow and blood circulation going to where he couldn't strangle her.
Well, thank God.
Absolutely. Now, she passed out.
And that's why he thought she was dead.
He thought she was dead.
But she survived to help.
Yes, she did.
Tina and
the background here is this. The story is that Linda Shackey met Jerry Leon Johns at an a gentleman's club, strip club.
Mm-hmm.
And he enticed her back to his room. And it was from there that he pulled a gun on her and told her that he worked for the DEA. She was under arrest. And he stole her car with her in it, took her to another location to attempt the strangulation. And that's really the background there, the story behind that. But again, it's going back to that profile,
Yeah. I did see something, though.
What you got?
That on December 18th of 2019, that a grand jury in Campbell County, Tennessee, ruled that Johns would have been indicted for murder in Farmer's death if he were still alive.
Yeah. Yeah. She had enough information there to get him. But honestly, there's enough information there, like I said earlier, to link him to some of these other cases.
Uh-huh.
You know, and
exactly.
and we'll get to that. But like I said, he dumped her for dead inside a storm drain under I-40 near Watt Road, and
How do you do that? What makes somebody like that?
I don't know. That's the weird thing. There's some information about this case, but not a lot. So makes you wonder. She did have red hair.
Yeah, that's probably about all too.
Mm-hmm. But you know, interestingly, Jerry Leon Johns. Guess what color hair he had?
He had red hair too.
He was a redhead as well. So, I would love to know what the developed there.
I'd love to see the profile on him.
Well, it goes back to what I said at the very beginning. White male, above average intelligence. In his case, he was military trained.
Mm-hmm.
Was known to have above average intelligence, tested near genius IQ. And it's one of those things that when they brought him in for questioning, the way he looked, disheveled, just rough looking, they took him to be a redneck until he opened his mouth.
And those are the ones you had to worry about.
And it was at that point that they realized, hey, this guy here's a smart guy.
Yep.
And he also admitted a deep fascination with serial killers.
Yeah.
So,
well, that could include us too, or me especially.
Are you a serial killer? Did you just confess to something? Remember, we are on a podcast.
I do remember, and I confess to nothing, but I am very intrigued with serial killers. So there.
Absolutely. Yeah, myself included. But, this was Jerry Leon Johns. I mean, the guy near genius IQ, military trained, goes back to what I said at the beginning. If he can think that critically, he would be able to say, hey, maybe I need a job as a long haul truck driver to carry out my sick, twisted fantasy. And he was a truck driver.
You might have to go, let's see. Yeah, that might be why. That really might be why.
Yeah. So, anyway, there you go. We have that part there. We'll get back to that because Jerry Leon Johns is tied. He could be tied to a few of these.
He very well could be.
So, but that leads us to Mrs. Tracy Walker.
Yes. Hold on just one. That's Miss Walker. On April 3rd of 1985, the skeletalized partial remains of a young girl were discovered about 200 yards off Big Wheel Gap Road.
Can
4 miles.
Skeletized real fast?
No, I can't say any of this real fast, so stop it. That's why I'm trying to pronunciate.
Woo! Okay, go ahead. Big word.
4 miles southwest of Jellicoe, Tennessee, in Campbell County, near a strip mine. She was believed to have been dead around between 1 and 4 years. Wow. At that time, her age was estimated between 9 and 15 years old. Wow. A passerby found her.
She would be the youngest victim.
She would be.
And that's where the discrepancy kicks in. Okay. There's enough here to make you think it could be grouped in with the rest of these Redhead murders.
Yeah.
But because of the wide open space and traveling through different states, this could be
somebody
possibly
else.
linked, or it could be not.
It could be linked, but there could be more than one working different areas.
Yeah. Well, Miss Tracy Walker, her cause of death was never determined, but it couldn't rule out homicide. And 32 bones, including her skull, were recovered at the scene.
Wow. Her skull was complete enough to permit a facial reconstruction attempt. Wow. Say that fast. A necklace and a bracelet made of plastic buttons were found nearby, as well as a pair of boots that were size 5 and a few scraps of clothing.
Yeah.
They may or may not belong to her. Her hair and eye color are unknown, though. Her age range is below the median for the other victims, but the circumstances of her death may connect to them.
Basically, you got a little baby here. And
Mm,
when I say little baby here between 9 and 15,
that's a baby.
That's a baby. We got grandkids older than that.
No, we got grandkids older than that, but we have grandkids younger than that too.
Yeah, we do. But she's got her little button bracelet on, her little button necklace on, and most people would view this child as a child.
Mm-hmm. It's sad. It is,
but not a predator, huh?
No, evidently not.
No, she got looked at as low hanging fruit. But
what?
Go ahead.
You go first. You go this time.
Recent forensic analysis of her remains indicate that she wasn't native to the area where she was discovered. The tests show that she was likely born in Florida or Central Texas and had later lived in the Midwest, Rocky Mountain states, the Southwest, or the Pacific coast.
So she might not be, she might not be in with this one, but they included her just because.
Yeah.
They're trying to find out who she is.
So on August 30th, 2022.
Excuse me.
You're good. She was identified as 15-year-old Tracy Sue Walker of Lafayette, Indiana.
It was made after Othram Laboratories located a possible family member in the Lafayette area, and TBI intelligence analysis located several relatives there who confirmed they had a relative who disappeared in 1978.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Tracy's mother had reported her twice as a runaway from the Eisenhower court home in Lafayette. And Tracy was last seen at a mall with a friend sometime in 1978. Samples. Go ahead.
No,
DNA samples were taken and submitted to CODIS, and that's how she was identified.
Well, I'm glad she was identified.
Now, here's the thing, okay? It's highly possible and probable that she is not connected to these redhead murder cases. However,
on the off chance she is.
Yeah. And the other chance is, or the other thought is, somebody took this baby and she met her demise at the hands of whoever took her.
Mm-hmm.
So in doing the research, this one bothered me a lot.
So we might have a podcast all about her.
Yeah. And when you go back and look, I don't know. You know, we do these podcasts, and sometimes we're desensitized a little bit, but
they weigh on you.
They do, and at the end of the day, I tell you all the time, how can somebody do this to another human being? You got this little baby here who ended up being 15 years old. She's got a button necklace on and a button bracelet. And I get that it's the 70s. You know, we were there. We grew up during that time.
Yeah.
I get it. But you looked at this little child, not as a little child who needed help, but you looked at this child as low hanging fruit. You sack of shit.
And they put her in a group home. She needed her mama, is what she needed.
Yeah. Well, she very troubled, hard life. Not the best environment.
Well, I get that.
Yeah, but it's one of these things to where she decided to leave the group home, probably hit a gas station or a truck stop,
and that somebody thought she was older.
Or not. Yeah, I'll help you. And the whole time, in her little naive state of mind, they're going to help me. And here this some bitch is, no, I've got other plans. Anyway, okay. Sorry, guys.
You're good.
That brings us to Michelle LaVaughn Inman. March 31st, 1985. Her skeletized body was found in Pleasant View, Chatham County, Tennessee, another redheaded female. And she was believed to have died probably between 3 and 5 months previously from an unknown cause. However, her case may be linked to the Redhead Murders because her remains were found
at the side of Interstate 24 between mile markers 29 and 30.
Which puts her right in the middle of it. And the other fact is she was a redhead. Unlike some of the other victims, she was wearing clothing and skirts, sweater pants, underwear, white, between 5 foot and 5'2". They never could determine her weight. An examination of her teeth showed the victim had some evidence of crowning and overlapping in her mouth. She's believed to be age-wise between 31 and 40 at the time of her death. And she was identified by the TBI, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and Orthram as 23-year-old Michelle LaVaughn Inman of Nashville, Tennessee, through forensic genetic genealogy. I tell you, man, isn't that something? You look at all the cases that can be solved with this.
Yep.
I mean, you know.
I know.
That leads us to the next one.
Epsy Pilgrim. And on April the 1st of 1985, a body of a woman was found in a large white Admiral refrigerator in Gray Knox County, Kentucky, alongside Route 25. Her death was by suffocation, not by strangulation, but by suffocation. She had been dead for a few days and was nude, except for 2 distinctive necklace pendants, one of a heart and the other of a gold-colored eagle, and 2 pairs of socks, one white and the other white with green and yellow stripes. There were reports that the victim may have been soliciting a ride to North Carolina over a CB radio. There was like 500 people or more at the Jane Doe victim's funeral because she was Jane Doe at the time. And it was televised. I don't remember that. Do you?
I don't. I really don't. I really don't.
The case, it was a local sensation.
Yeah. Well, you know, local sensation for that area.
Yeah, and it might not have been televised here.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, the refrigerator had a decal of the word Superwoman on the front.
Well, at least it's not my words.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, this one's a little different.
It is different.
It's a refrigerator. She's found inside a refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't that make you think that somebody local who probably had a refrigerator in their backyard or in their garage?
I think I'll murder somebody so I can get rid of my refrigerator.
Yeah, just put them inside this refrigerator.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But the fact that it had Superwoman on the front of it. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That was that. Did that have a meaning?
Makes you wonder.
It makes you wonder.
Some of her distinguishing features, she had a number of moles, right side of her neck, near one ankle, below each breast, yellow stained upper incisor, and a scar and other marks on her abdomen.
Wow.
What that indicates is that she probably had given birth.
Yeah.
Her eyes were light brown. Her hair was red and nearly a foot long, which fit the pattern. Okay. So after the autopsy, the victim was determined to be 24 to 35 years old and approximately 4'9" to 4'11".
So you're taller than she is.
Yes, I'm taller.
I'm picking, baby. I love you.
I love you too.
Are you mad at me now?
Absolutely not. Guys, what she's referring to is you don't know the full story. We've not told it.
Well, we've not told it, so it's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. We're childhood sweethearts. We haven't been together since childhood, but anyway, we met when we were 13, and Mrs. Eubanks at 13 was a lot taller than I was at 13.
See,
so
shouldn't have got me on camera. Shouldn't have made me get on camera.
I'm telling you. So it's possible that she owned a pair of boots found near the refrigerator. Several missing people have been eliminated as possible matches to the victim. But after the case got publicized in 2013, a lot of tips came in. It's kind of unknown how many became solid leads. However,
on October the 1st, 2018, Knox County Sheriff's Office announced this woman had been positively identified as Epsie Regina Black Pilgrim of Western North Carolina. A DNA match was made between her and her grown daughter, who said her mother disappeared when the girl was 6 weeks old. Pilgrim also had 4 older children.
So can you imagine that? 5
Wow.
children, and you're the child that identifies you as their mother has no memory of you.
None.
All because of somebody who has these.
Does not that make you mad?
It does make you mad.
It makes you really mad.
So from there, we are at the 42-minute mark. We could do a couple of things.
What could we do?
We can go over the next suspected victim, or we can just continue on.
What do you mean next? What do you mean?
So, some of the suspected murders of the Redhead murderer or Bible Belt Strangler include Priscilla Ann Belvins. Priscilla Ann Belvins, March 29th, 1948, probably met her demise sometime between July 8th, 1975, sometime around that time frame. She was 27 years old, woman. Her skeletized remains were found along Interstate 40 in Waynesville, North Carolina, and they found those on March 29th, 1985. And the weird thing here is it's believed she's placed in a location around the time. However, yeah.
Oh, wow.
She went missing a full decade earlier in 1975. So now we've got something different. Okay. And this doesn't fit Mr. Johns.
It does.
Matter of fact, he would have been in prison during this time.
Yeah.
So, found March 29th, 1985, placed in a location around that time. However, it is known she went missing a full decade earlier in 1975. Priscilla was identified via DNA and dental records in 2012. No cause or manner of death was ever determined. Authorities have not specified the type of investigation is taking place surrounding her case. However, Priscilla's sister commented the circumstances of the discovery appeared to be involuntary. She had reddish blonde hair.
Wow. See, that's just.
And that's when can you pin this on one or two guys, or are there more, or is
this just a completely different case?
Circumstance? Yeah, you just happen to have reddish blonde hair.
Yeah, and it could be.
Yeah, could be strange.
And the next one would be Miss Karen K. Is it Nippers? Knippers.
Yeah.
Which one?
Nippers is when I was looking through and saw some of the news footage. However, I did hear somebody say Knippers. So
on May 25th, 1981, law enforcement recovered the descendant from a lower water crossing on Highway MM near Dixon, Missouri. She suffered trauma to the face and was strangled with pantyhose. She was found clothed but without shoes and was estimated to be between 25 and 40 of age. She had black hair, no red, very first.
But somehow she got tentatively linked to the other cases.
I know, based on similarities in modus operandi.
Oh, what a big word.
I know. Say it again.
I can't. Modus operandi.
She was named Polanski Jane Doe. Is it how do you say that?
I would say Polanski.
Polanski Jane Doe. Isotope testing later showed that she had not lived in Missouri for more than a few years and most likely spent most of her life in the southwestern region of the United States. She was tentatively identified by the DNA Doe Project in December 2019 as Karen K. Knippers.
Mm-hmm.
Her birthday would have been December 5th, 1948. She died May 24th, 1981. She was 32 years old when she murdered. And legal confirmation was taking place on the 25th of 2021.
Wow.
I know. There's not much. That's a whole different. I mean, There's a couple, but not a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
That's weird.
So from that, we move into the Wetzel County Jane Doe. February 13th, 1983. The naked body of a white female was found alongside Route 250 near Lillington in Wetzel County, West Virginia. A pair of senior citizens.
Say that 3 times.
I can't.
Okay.
A pair of senior citizens reported the body, which they had originally thought was a mannequin. They just thought it was a mannequin laying there. The body had been placed in the area recently as snow was on the ground, but it hadn't accumulated on the body. That's so weird to me.
That is weird, too.
Police said tire tracks and footprints nearby indicated she was likely transported to the site after her death from another location.
It was the old couple.
Yeah.
That's who it was.
They did it.
Mhm.
The examination concluded she had died about 2 days previously and was not a victim of sexual assault. Her cause of death was undetermined. However, her hair color was auburn.
Mm-hmm.
By 1985, she was linked possibly to the other redhead women found as homicide victims whose deaths seemed to be related.
Well, that's kind of strange. I mean, she was older than the other girls.
That brings up an interesting point. You have some serial killers who are motivated by their sexual desire.
Yeah.
And then you have some who are method serial killers or along that lines. And what that is are mission serial killers. They have a mission. And that's to eradicate a certain type of person. And so they're usually not sexually assaulted. But, going through some of these cases, some of these women were sexually assaulted.
Some were.
But in this
not all of them.
No. But in this particular case, that was not the case.
Yeah, so it makes you think it was that old couple. There was no snow up there on her. The old couple placed them there.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But, and guys, that's just us trying to bring levity to the seriousness of the situation. But in this case, her cause of death was undetermined. We do know her hair was auburn, and she was linked along as a homicide victim because, again, she's fitting some of the criteria here, stretching a little bit, but she's fitting it.
Yeah.
Estimated age between 35 and 45. She appeared to be older than the median for the rest of the victims. So again, she's kind of fallen out of the demographic that he prefers.
Yeah.
She was estimated to be around 5'6", maybe around 135 pounds. Her eyes were presumed to be brown. But, come to find out post-mortem, changes happen.
Yeah.
Like somebody with blue eyes may show up on the table as having dark eyes.
Well, I didn't know all that, but okay.
She had a couple of scars. One was indicative of a C-section. Another one was on her index finger. However, her legs, underarms, clean and shaven, which what the point in that is it indicates proper.
She was a transient or a hitchhiker.
She wasn't transient. She paid attention to some grooming.
Yes.
Okay?
She took really good care of herself.
She was taken care of. Yeah, absolutely. She described as, and see, witnesses, when interviewed, describe a middle-aged man about 5'10" and weighing between 185 to 200 pounds near the area where the body was found. And she could have been seen last alive in Wheeling, West Virginia, as an employee or a customer at a bar. West Virginia authorities are skeptical of whether the victim is related to any of the other victims. So they don't really view this as being part of the Redhead Murders. She just kind of got lumped in there a little bit.
They're trying to bring attention because they want her murder solved too, and it may be in some strange way. Who knows?
Maybe. And with that, guys, that brings us up to our next commercial break.
Well, we will see you in 2 minutes and 2 seconds. And welcome back to BucklesBerry Lemonade. I'm your host, Lisa, and there's my handsome husband and co-host, Timothy.
Well, thank you very much, my dear.
You're very welcome, my dear. And our next up, we're picking up where we left off, is Miss Lori Pinnell.
Mm-hmm.
She was previously known as the DeSoto County Jane Doe. She was a woman that was found murdered on January 24th, 1985 in Olive Branch, Mississippi. She was found by a truck driver driving southbound on Highway 78, 100 feet east of Coldwater River Bridge at around 7:30 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And her body, it was found 20 feet south of the highway. And her shoes, undergarments, and jacket were missing. And guess what?
Was she strangled?
She was strangled. And she had ligature marks and possibly sexually assaulted.
22 years old.
And 5 feet 2 inches to 5 feet 4 inches, between 105 and 130 pounds. She is believed to have been a heavy smoker. She had 3 piercings in each ear, and her fingernails were deeply bitten. So she's had a rough life too.
Anxiety.
Yep. Anxiety. And that is always not, it doesn't even say nothing about how they found out about her or anything.
And again, these are not for sure connections. They just could be. They just could be.
Yeah.
Because they meet some criteria.
Oh, and I just wanted to break in, and I wanted to thank my sweet, lovely mother-in-law for the rose that's in my hair. Where's it at? Right
there you go. Other side.
Okay, because see, it's strange.
Opposite, isn't it? Yeah.
It's opposite, but I just wanted to thank her and tell her I love her. I had the sweetest mother-in-law.
I got one too. Thank you, Mom.
Yes. Okay.
But for whatever reason, she's been, linked into this, and she could be, but she may not be, because while some of the criteria are met, I mean,
not all of it has been met.
Not all of it. So, and then Elizabeth Lamont, April 14th, 1985, a young white female was found Greene County, Tennessee. She was determined to have been killed between 3 and 6 weeks prior by severe blunt trauma, possibly a stab wound as well. Her body was in an advanced state of decomposition. Police were able to obtain her fingerprints as well as DNA and dental information.
This is sad.
She had been approximately 6 to 8 weeks pregnant, miscarrying shortly before death.
So whatever happened before her death, that's what happened. That's what made her.
And then
wow, this is a baby.
When you look this up and see her picture, this is a baby. This is a baby. I mean, she's miscarried her child 6 to 8 weeks prior. She's dealing with that. And at the time, they were suspecting 14 to 20 years old, possibly as old as 25. She was approximately 5'4", 5'6", somewhere in that range, possibly around 130 to 140 pounds. slight overbite, had some fillings in her teeth, which, denoted she had dental care. Her fingernails had pink polish because she had light brown to darkish blonde hair with red highlights.
Oh, so there's that. There's the red. Yeah.
So she could have been linked right there. Authorities hoped in late April of 1985 that they would identify her body through fingerprints, but that was unsuccessful. 6 missing women were ruled out as possible identities of the victim.
Mm.
It wasn't until November 2018 when officials announced she was New Hampshire native Elizabeth Lamont. She was 17 at the time of her death. She had disappeared on April 6th, 1984. That's a little close to home, isn't it?
That is.
Yeah. She was identified through a DNA match with a DNA profile obtained from her family by the New Hampshire police in 2017.
Mm.
She had been staying at a group home in Manchester, New Hampshire, and never returned to her family once gaining furlough. Her family was initially asked for DNA to profile and compare it to an adult female victim of the Bear Brook murders.
Oh, wow.
Another interesting set. An unidentified girlfriend of the suspect, alias Robert Evans, was known by the same name as Elizabeth. Robert Evans was later revealed to be the serial killer of Terry Peter Rasmussen.
I know he was later revealed to be the serial killer. He was the serial killer.
Exactly. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth Lamont is very much possibly a victim of Rasmussen.
Probably.
And he was an American serial killer, convicted murderer, suspected serial killer.
Yeah.
He's been convicted of at least one murder and linked to at least 5 more in a series of crimes that stretched across the United States.
Yep.
Between 1978 and 2022. So more than likely, this sack of shit is responsible for Elizabeth Lamont.
Mm-hmm. Wow. In this one, in the next one, the Pulaski County Jane Doe. She was found deceased on April the 20th, 1985 in Wrightsville, Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
She was estimated to be about 30 or 40. She was approximately 5 feet 3 inches. She had blondish red hair, and she had previously fractured her left femur.
Mm-hmm.
Her cause of death has neither been released nor properly determined. Little information has been made available about her case.
But again, she's in that Pulaski part of the world.
Yep, she sure is.
Mm-mm-mm.
That's what I say.
That's crazy.
That is very crazy.
And for her, I think she's probably one of the victims.
She probably is. But we've not said it at all during this episode. But if you know something about anything and any of these murders, please contact the proper authorities.
Absolutely.
They need your help. These victims need your help. They are somebody's loved one. Somebody somewhere loves them and wants justice for them.
Absolutely. That brings us to Betty Lou Wisely. And if I pronounce this wrong, I'm sorry, guys, for our Tennessee listeners. Rowan County Jane Doe, that's what she formerly was known as. She was found August 29th, 1987 in Rowan, Tennessee. She was estimated to be between 35 and 50 years old.
So that would have made her the oldest, I think, right?
If she's connected. And again,
If
this is one of those cases
we don't know for sure. So
goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning, state lines,
mm-hmm.
all kinds of things. She was probably 5 feet to 5 foot, probably 5 feet and 5 feet 8 inches. Naturally brown hair, but it had been dyed a reddish color.
Yeah.
We knew she had a. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. No, you
we
go
knew
ahead.
she had a hysterectomy and a tracheotomy, a mole on the left side of her back, and breast implants. Additionally, an old gunshot wound to her lower third thoracic vertebrae. The bullet was actually found to still be lodged in her spine.
Oh, wow.
And she had been burned. And they feel like this was deliberate to hide identification efforts.
Yep.
And they do believe she was murdered. And that's one of those things to where, most most breast implants have serial numbers.
Yeah, you would think they would have. Is that how they identified her? It doesn't say, does it?
Doesn't say. It just says in 2023, she was identified as Betty Lou Wisely of Knox County.
Who
knows? But again, the serial killer, above average intelligence.
Yeah.
What could trace back to this person? Breast implants with serial numbers.
Yeah, that's one thing.
Because, when you and I were discussing this, you were telling me that most people that have dentures, there's a serial number, right?
There is a serial number on them. So if they have dentures, there's a serial number related to that person.
And same way with most implants,
Yep, exactly.
So whoever did this knew that.
Mm-hmm.
They could have had intimate knowledge of Miss Betty Lou.
Yeah, it actually could have been somebody related to. I mean, if you go to that extreme, you're trying to hide a connection.
Mm-hmm. You were trying to hide a connection. So, and there was something about her that could have connected them somehow. So,
yep.
So from there we go to Stacy Lynn
Chaharsky. If that's right, if that's not, I'm so sorry. Please,
you did better. You did better than what I was going to do.
if it's wrong, please, viewers, let us know. We do not intend to pronounce anything wrong.
Yeah, guys, we might laugh and cut up about some things, but this is serious stuff, and we want these people to be brought to justice for the family's sake.
And Stacy, now let's go on to Stacy.
Go ahead. Go on, Stacy.
She was found strangled to death in Rising Fawn, Georgia, in late '88. She was officially reported missing in January of '89, 4 months after she was last contacted. She had informed her mother via telephone that she was planning to hitch rides from her current location in North Carolina to her own state of Michigan, to the city.
From home.
It is a long way from home. She was going to Flint and Muskegon. How do you say that word? Muskegon.
Muskegon. I have no idea.
The victim's remains, they were discovered along the east side of northbound I-59 near Rising Fawn in Dade County, Georgia, approximately 5 miles from the Georgia and Alabama state line. Mm-hmm. It was suspected that the victim has been sexually assaulted and Or no, it was suspected that she may have been a hitchhiker prior to identification. But her family told that's what she was going to do. So they were right on that. But
Yeah. And it looks like she had brownish, strawberry, blonde, auburn, or red hair. It was shoulder length with frosted ends.
Excuse me.
2019, her age range was adjusted to 25 and 35. Before this, she was thought to be as young as 16 and a possible runaway.
She was identified with assistance from Orthram Incorporated in late March of 22. In September 6, Chehorsky's killer was identified as trucker and stunt driver Henry Frederick Hoss Wise. Who would have been 34 years old at the time of her murder. And he worked for the Western Carolina Trucking Company and commonly drove through Chattanooga and Nashville, Tennessee, and Birmingham, Alabama. He had a criminal past in 3 states, ranging from theft and assault to obstruction of a police officer. Was burned to death in a car accident at Myrtle Beach Speedway in South Carolina. Good for him.
That was in 1999. So sad for you, you sack of shit.
Not really.
Wow.
Not at all sad. I'm not going to mourn his demise.
No telling how many other victims he may have had.
He could have been the killer.
Could have been. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, look what he did.
Yeah.
They need to test them against all of them.
All right, guys. That is bringing us up to our third commercial break for the evening.
Oh, wow. 2 minutes, 2 seconds.
We're so glad you're with us. We hope you come back with us after the 2 minutes and 2 second mark.
And we love you.
Yeah, absolutely. Please be
sure. Follow, and share. I got you.
You got me, my love. All right, guys. We will be right back in just a few. BucklesBerry Lemonade, the podcast. Thank you for being here with us.
And welcome back to BucklesBerry Lemonade. I'm your host, Lisa, and I'm with my handsome husband and sweeter co-host, Timothy.
Well, thank you, my dear, my beautiful wife. So glad to be back with you guys as we finish up our podcast on the Redhead Murders, also known as the Bible Belt Strangler.
And our last victim that is known is Miss Donna Sue Nelton. She was formerly known as the Benton County Jane Doe, and she was found murdered on May 7th, 1990 in Rogers, Arkansas. She was located 8 miles west of Decatur, Arkansas, off Highway 102, close to the Oklahoma and Missouri state lines. Wow. Several bones were recovered, along with what appeared to be shotgun wadding. What is shotgun wadding?
It's part of the firing mechanism inside the actual shotgun shell. It it helps ignite the friction.
Okay. And then buckshot pellets were found in the ground under the skull. A neighbor had reported seeing a fire in the area in February 1990, but never went to investigate. Sometimes it pays to investigate.
Yeah.
Hey, you've got to be safe, but if you see something strange like that, At least call the authorities. You never know.
He believed somebody was burning trash.
I still,
But investigators believe the victim or the bones may have been run over with a vehicle to make identification difficult or next to impossible. So, you remember in the other case, she was set on fire.
yeah, I remember that.
So, this victim was shot and then ran over.
And then set on fire.
Mhm. Not
Not
enough
a-
of the remains to provide a reconstruction.
She was estimated to be between 25 and 35 years of age and 5 feet 5 inches in height. And she was identified on October 25th, 2022. Wow. By, I hope I'm saying this right, Othram Incorporated, as Donna Nelton, who was last seen in the fall of 89. The authorities suspected her boyfriend at the time, George Alvin Brutton, for her murder. He had spent time on the FBI's most wanted list for 3 months in 79 after taking 2 families hostage. What a sack of shit.
Yeah, as a sack of shit is, as a sack of shit does.
Exactly right. And wounding 2 officers in Utah in September of 89. Good gracious. He and an associate were seen disposing trash bags containing Donna's personal items into a dumpster in North Kansas City. And her car was found in a storage unit owned by Bruton. He was sentenced to life in prison for drug-related offenses. He died in prison in 2008, and we don't know if he had anything to do with this or not.
But more than likely, because again, as a sack of shit is, as
A sack of shit
does,
does.
George Alvin Bruton
Was a brooder.
More than likely responsible for Donna Nelton's demise.
But see how they're all they're trying to kind of fit them all in because of certain characteristics.
That begs you to wonder, though, and you see some of this with some of these cases here. Is that the authorities doing this, or is this the media trying to make links for news stories? Because when you look at this and a few of the others, you're really stretching to connect it.
Some of them you really, really are, and it makes you wonder where the authorities came up with this.
If they did, or was it the media?
But how can you take something? I mean, just because of maybe height. I mean, if they got jet black hair, chances are it's not because he's had a specific.
I know, but it's like this. If you've got 7 criteria to make a duck, and somebody comes along and says, "Hey, look, this may not be a duck, but it's got 5 of the criteria. So can we stretch this a little bit and say it's a duck?" And then somebody comes along and says, "Hey, you know what? It's only got 5 of the points we need for all 7, but hell, let's call it a duck."
But it's not a duck.
It's not a duck, but I think
it's a pelican. It's not a duck.
I think that's what's happened in some of these cases, though. I really do.
But it's wrong, though. It's really.
I agree, but nevertheless, to sell newspapers back in the 1980s, the 1990s, to sell subscriptions, to get people to turn into the news, to sensationalize, why not say, "Hey, look, they're all the Redhead Murders"?
Well, I see that, but they're wrong. If you sit down and think about it, people need to use the brain more.
They do, but again, it goes back to this. Essentialize everything and make it what it is.
Exactly. Think, 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 people, think.
So it's believed that most of the victims remain unidentified due to their estrangement from their family, their transient lifestyle, or them not being native to the states that they were found in. Around 1985, soon after the Greene County victim was discovered, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi requested that the FBI step in and assist them with these cases. A lot of inconsistencies existed. Victims were found both clothed, unclothed. Some had had a sexual encounter before their murders, and it. And so what they did was,
They had a conference.
they're in this get together. Stated that 4 of the victims were found in Texas, and the victims found in 81 in Ohio, nicknamed Buckskin Girl, later identified as Marcia King, were ruled out in 1985 as possible victims of the Redheaded Murders.
And then a possible suspect emerged around 85 when 37-year-old trucker Jerry Leon Johns attacked and attempted to strangle a woman with reddish hair.
Who we talked about earlier.
Yes, he left her lying near a highway thinking that she was dead, but she was not. He was later dismissed in the Redhead Murders case, but was convicted of the woman's kidnapping in 87. And despite his exclusion from the case, it was announced that DNA from Johns was matched to Tina Farmer through CODIS in 2016. And he died in 2015 in prison. He was 67. Good for him.
Yeah. And, a grand jury decided he would have been indicted for the slaying had he been alive. He was a truck driver from Cleveland, Tennessee. Before his arrest, he had not been specified whether he was considered a suspect in any of the other Redhead murders, although he fits the profile.
But there was also another suspect, 32-year-old trucker. It shows you. In Pennsylvania, he was questioned after kidnapping and raping a young woman in Indiana. She managed to escape before sustaining further injury. This suspect was also dismissed from the investigation after being questioned by Tennessee police.
But that goes back to what we talked about earlier. There is some speculation that maybe at least there could have been a couple of these 3 guys, maybe.
Yeah.
We know from the part that you're getting ready to go over next about the school teacher that Johns, Jerry Leon Johns, could be tied to at least 6 of these.
Yep.
And probably is responsible.
He's probably responsible for a majority of them.
Probably. But what if, and then this is my speculation, what if 2 guys at a truck stop are just talking it up over a cup of coffee after a long trip, and then as they get to know each other and as time wears on, conversation turns a little darker and they start to trust each other with a little more and a little more to finally they're confiding in each other. Hey, I like to kill redheaded chicks. So how do you know this 32-year-old trucker from Pennsylvania couldn't have had a conversation with him or another person who decided, for whatever their reasons. Let's swap stories and talk about how we killed this person or that person.
Or let's get together and let's do it together.
Is it possible? Am I wrong? Is it possible?
No, it's possible.
Is it within the realm of possibility?
Anything is possible. I believe that now more than ever, anything is possible.
Yeah, makes you wonder.
It really does.
So 2018, an Elizabethtown, Tennessee teacher, Alex Campbell, offered a sociology class studying these murders. The class potentially identified 3 to 6 of these victims and developed a profile of the killer, which we mentioned earlier. White male, above average intelligence, possibly military trained, above height, above weight, loner. And guess who that describes?
Yeah, I know exactly who that describes.
Jerry Leon Johns.
Exactly. And that's a man with 3 first names. The 3 first names serial killer.
I guess so. So again, he probably is responsible for at least 6 of these. More than likely, he is the Bible Belt Strangler. You can do your own research and come to your own conclusions. He fits all the criteria. He checks off the boxes.
He really does.
However, you do have some of these that have been lumped together.
That don't.
Yeah.
So don't let that distract you from. Some of these will not be in with him.
Yeah. I mean, as an example, Tracy Walker, she somewhat fits the criteria. It's almost like you've got somewhat of a square peg and you're going to force it into a round hole anyway.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And what about Epsie Pilgrim? I mean, she's the only one that was put in a refrigerator.
And that's weird with the marking Superwoman.
Yeah. So that could be lumped in with another series. He might have been trying to say something. I mean, we don't know.
And who's to say that you didn't know her and to try and hide it? Because you know yourself, when somebody murders somebody they know or they cared about on some level, a little extra precaution is taken. They try to cover them. They try to conceal their identity or body, whatever the case may be. And that makes you wonder, why'd you stick them in the refrigerator and dump them off on the freeway?
Exactly. I mean, that don't even fit his criteria, but he could have been doing something different. He might have been trying different things and didn't like it.
He could have
been saying he's not it. It's just saying it does not fit the profile.
But you're a long-haired haul truck driver, you're riding through there. If you're not picking up junk, you've got to secure refrigerator, put that body in a refrigerator, be in a situation where you can dump them off. And I'm sorry, I don't think that happened from an 18-wheeler truck. I think that happened from a pickup truck.
Not unless he was hauling refrigerators.
Yeah, but still, he's got to pull off to the side and push it off the road. And it's got to be an old refrigerator, so it's junk. So I think that happened out of a pickup truck. But
I believe it's not related. I don't think she's in it. I don't. You don't have to sell me on that.
Yeah. So, well, guys, we are reaching the end of our podcast.
And yay, we made it through. I don't know how good it's going to be, but we hope you love it.
And guys, again, this is our first time actually being on camera. It was a little awkward.
A little.
A little bit.
A little bit light.
Yeah, a little bit of light. But again, guys, like my lovely wife said earlier, if you know anything, please
say something.
Say
something. Like, share, subscribe. Please.
All right, guys. Until next time.
Let's dance you out of here.
And this has been BucklesBerry Lemonade. I'm your co-host,
Podcast.
Tim.
And
And
I'm
my lovely wife, my host, Lisa. Until next time, guys. So long.
Bye.